My guest today is Joshua Bingaman. Joshua is the founder of HELM Boots. He now works as a real estate agent in Bastrop County, focusing on commercial and residential real estate projects. Joshua and I were introduced by two different mutual friends that don't know each other within the course of a 5-day period, and then found out we know several people in common. Really just have enjoyed getting to know Joshua. We're still kind of early in our friendship, but in this conversation, you're going to hear a lot of openness, a lot of candor, a lot of real talk about real struggles that we both face. Just really have come to appreciate that about Joshua. He is radically himself. That's not easy to find. So with all that said, I hope you'll enjoy this conversation with Joshua Bingaman.
Most of the time I've found that when I introduce myself to somebody and they know my name is Tanner, that the confusion you heard in the green room of people saying, "Are you saying Tanner? Is there a Y in there?"
I've never heard Tanner.
It's the Texas twang that I add to my own name
Tanner.
that makes it hard to understand. But when people know my name is Tanner, they usually have some like person from their childhood named Tanner that they didn't like. And it's like a hurdle to get over in relationships sometimes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see it on people's faces when they learn, like,
it's a pretty specific
Tanner?
name. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I might not like you.
Yeah. Sorry. What do you even call this? Your podcast?
Tanner Vaughn and Friends.
Okay.
TVAF.
Okay. I feel like I saw that. And your intent is content.
Yeah, man. I'm a private person in my personal life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a huge social media user or consumer.
Mm-hmm.
I early in the founding days of the business that we started, I lost like 4 hours in a midweek day to a Facebook rabbit hole.
Okay.
And it was one of those things where you don't even realize that 4 hours has gone by, and you look up and you're like, oh man,
yeah,
I've been sitting here for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And this is like in the first 2 weeks of starting the business.
Okay.
And it scared me, honestly. That was the feeling of it, was like, I just lost 4 hours of my life without recognizing it.
That's a lot.
There's maybe like an addiction component to that I need to steer clear of.
Yeah. I mean, of course it's an addictive behavior, but that's a drug.
It's a drug.
But that's not uncommon either.
Well, when you recognize it in the first couple of weeks of starting a business, when you just quit your job, it was a good shot across the bow for me of like, okay, you got to avoid that.
Hold on.
Right?
Yeah.
So fast forward to last year, I'm a people person in general. That's the thing that I enjoy, which is something I think you and I share in common.
Yeah, for sure.
But we had occasion to bring in some people into a studio environment to do some interviews, client stuff for the business.
Cool.
And we committed to doing 10 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And about 3 or 4 into it, I realized I would come into the studio early. I would prepare for it. I'd have a really good conversation, what I felt like was a good conversation. And then I would go rewatch the conversations. And like, I'm a podcast consumer.
Yeah.
And recognized, okay, not only do I feel like I'm okay at this, I really, really enjoy it. It's like an energy giving thing.
That's cool.
And for 10 years of running a business, you remember the early days of starting the business where it was energy giving.
Mm-hmm.
And I have not felt that in a professional sense in a long time. I haven't had an outlet like that for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so just decided, okay, I'm going to commit to doing this.
Cool.
And there's a responsibility element to it that's probably deeper than you want to go.
Sure.
But to me, so many people that put themselves out there in public do it in a way that when you meet them in real life, you recognize like, oh, you're not a real person.
Yeah. What are you doing there? That's not the person I thought.
That's not the person I thought you were.
That's not uncommon either.
And I feel like there's a responsibility for people that don't operate that way. Like we were talking about in the green room, being able to be your version of yourself that you're proud of in any context you find yourself in.
Right. In your own skin. Just, this is my heart. This
is who I am. Yeah. And if there's not going to be people that are willing to put themselves out there who are authentic like that, well, then everything on the internet is going to be inauthenticity.
Sure.
And, at some point you got to take responsibility for what you can do.
Yeah. Because that's not who you are at all. You said something earlier.
Hold on, hold your thought, because I want to read your bio so it's actually in here.
Oh, but like you just said, I was just going to say I laughed when you said something about, and I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing when you said about the 10-year thing and I can't exactly remember how you worded. Oh, feeling passionate or authentic or sincere about what you were doing, or having some sort of sense of. I don't remember how you worded it,
Yeah.
but being in that transition or doing this, committing to it, I was like, that's my bio right
That's your
now.
bio.
Yeah,
Let's
dude,
leave it there then.
definitely the
Let's leave it
last.
there then.
Well, I don't even know. I mean, I don't know what
Your bio is written very well. Whoever wrote it,
Oh, it's probably like we had PR companies for
that's probably what it was then.
for Helm. So, and then
Define
after
yourself in a few short sentences then.
man, I don't know if I'd be able to do that if I hadn't heard it written before or assisted in doing it. But most recently, it's become more clear to me that it's father, husband, entrepreneur, creative. If we're putting labels,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's 4 very good descriptive words.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean that's recent, even where the girl who manages our office was writing bios like for our folders for our listing, like when we go meet with people for real estate.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah, that that is what I am.
Yeah.
Or that helps, because I mean the coffee connoisseur or shoe designer or things like that. Even when it was like musician, for some reason those things didn't fit. I do feel like a father. I do feel like a husband, and I do now. I can say like, you know what, I was an entrepreneur, but sure, I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And then creativity, if I don't have it, there's not a vitality there without something creative like art, literature, music, film.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to have those. I always have.
The last 2 terms are almost synonymous with each other too, because people that are entrepreneurial, typically there's a little bit of vagabond spirit to that. Like you want to start something, you want to see it get to stability. Oftentimes when it does, it loses its luster a little bit because you like the pursuit.
Right.
And it's that creativity that keeps you wanting to continue going and doing and taking something from this doesn't exist to now.
Right.
It's the 0 to 1 thing that the creative likes in the entrepreneurial pursuit.
Right. And that's been something frustrating about not learning until later on, or reading about it or hearing about it or watching other people succeed in businesses they started, even around the same time as me, entrepreneur wise, and then around Austin or friends in LA, New York, whatever. As a creative, they're willing or they're able to build. And I've realized, like, you know what, I can build something. I'm not a manager. I can't manage it. I can't survive what it is. And the times I've realized that, where I've had businesses with, what do we say, propulsion. I haven't known or didn't plug anybody in or didn't, and either until it was too late, or I didn't know how to, or I didn't know the process of it. And I tried to I would start everything with my own money. I would run it with my own money. I'd build it with my own money. And then as I was trying to form it and everything, like Tetris, I was fitting everything, but then I needed other people to help me put the blocks in place. And then it didn't happen. So that's a struggle for me, where it's like, I feel like I failed to a degree on stuff. But that also gives me the ability to help people not do what I did.
Yeah, right.
Or to not fail.
Yeah, the path that you've walked before where you've stubbed your toe, you can at least guide somebody through.
Broke my toe, broke my foot.
Right.
I don't feel like I feel like I was amputee.
So, okay, there's an interesting wrinkle to that then, because you and I just met each other. I don't meet people that often where I feel pretty well after the first meeting, like probably gonna be friends with that guy.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
we had an interesting situation in that we were introduced to each other by 2 different people that don't know each other.
Yeah.
Within 5 days of each other.
Yeah. That was kind of crazy, because I got a text from 2 different people. Do I know you? Yeah, that is wacky.
Unrelated. I don't think they know each other.
No, they don't, for sure.
And then finding a third person who we know in common, who also doesn't know the other 2. I don't know. It was a cool moment of like, I can count on one hand the amount of relationships I have where that's the case.
Yeah.
Where it was just, we met, we were introduced by somebody that knows us both.
Yeah.
And in the first conversation, you just realize there's some kindred spirit there It's fun. It excites me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I hadn't gone, this sounds silly, but I hadn't gone home and talked to my wife in a while, to the extent where it's like, yo, I met this dude that I could like hang with. You
Yeah.
know, like I connected with this guy because I interact with a lot of people and I know a lot of people, but I'm not known by a lot of people. And even normally right now, this pertains to us meeting. I think I'd be a little more vivacious and animated. But I've been pretty off the last few days. And when we were texting this morning, even possibly about me canceling this, I think that might further deepen our relationship from here, because I was open with you about depression. Uh, and you can say anxiety, but even how we were talking about melancholy and Abe Lincoln and stuff. But yeah, when I hit you up this morning, is that okay that I'm talking about your personal?
Totally. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm very, very open.
Okay, cool.
In this context.
Okay, good. Because
I'm more open in this context than I am with most people
I hear
outside
you.
of this
Yeah,
context.
I hear you. I exaggerate about stuff when it comes to just normal life, but I'm an open book otherwise.
Mhm.
Exaggerate as in to the extent needed to be to feel like I validate myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that piece of it was the wrinkle that I wanted to circle back to on
That we were talking about out there.
just a second ago.
Yeah.
When you said that you're a builder, you're not necessarily a manager of people.
Oh man, I know
And
that 100% now.
I'm just now having to grapple with this myself
Yeah.
because what I feel like I know about myself is I'm a people person.
Yeah.
If you put me in a room with any random assortment of people,
Sure.
98% of them I'll find some sort of common ground with,
Yeah.
where we can have a good conversation that we both leave feeling like, I like that guy.
That's fun. Yeah. Or I don't like the guy.
Or I don't like that guy, which happens.
Yeah.
But I'm just now having to come to grips with the reality that maybe I'm not a good people manager.
Yeah.
After
Yeah.
11 years of managing people and trying to build a team,
Yeah.
I think the successes we've had at building a team are way more credit to the handful of people that I've been able to be around
Sure.
professionally that I know I can trust, I can rely on,
Mhm.
and letting them go build the team.
Yeah.
I'm maybe not a good people manager.
Yeah.
And I'm finding that out about myself at damn near 40.
I get it. And that's very candid of you as well. And I've had great team leaders come on, but it's either been too late or then, I don't know, there's like a captain of a ship and then what's above a captain or a general or whatever. I should probably get more out of the way.
You're the Commodore.
Commodore.
You're the person that oversees a fleet of captains.
That sounds cool.
And you let them manage their own boats.
And I would be good at that or would have been. But even again, the guys that came on and brought people on, it's just so different to have a vision and the passion and the heart be carried on. You know, like somebody will come on and be pro and be able to build systems and put things in place that I either didn't or that I screwed up trying to. But then I have just felt if the heart, if the DNA of the business or the band or I just feel like it can leave when something's based on, there's that there's business books you read where they're like, if you need to be able to build something so you can exit it.
Yes.
And I had never thought of that or heard of that or having an exit clause or an exit strategy, but I often realized that I built things around myself or my story. But I didn't know how else to do it. It's like if I'm starting this business, I'm starting it and naming it after my son, or I'm starting it because it's what I want. And if I'm not there, it doesn't function correctly. That's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
So, but that took me 20 plus years to learn. So
it's the equivalent of a stand-up comic who really deeply cares about their art form. And when they're coming up in their first 10 years of comedy, they drink every night before they go on stage. And then that becomes part of their act of like, I can't really do this if I'm not drinking before going on stage.
What happens if I don't?
If I stop drinking, I'm going to lose a little bit of that magic. It's if I add process and procedure to this business in a way that helps it scale responsibly, well, then I'm taking the crazy artist element out of it where, you know, where we can lose the magic.
Right.
If you look at the unicorn disappears.
Yeah.
So don't look at the unicorn by
Yeah.
adding policy and procedure and HR oversight and all that nonsense.
The plugging in your SOPs.
Right. What are our KPIs this month?
Right, exactly.
Ugh.
And I know. And then sitting in those managerial meetings and everything, I would realize, like, dude, this is suffocating me, or I'm really bad at this, or I'm not supposed to be here, or I'm not good at this. Just let me be creative and design, and let me meet people and spread the gospel of whatever the company is. Because I think I realize now, I wanted structure. I wanted the business to flourish based on professionalism and on people knowing what they're doing. But again, I feel like it was either too late or because it had gone 5, 8, 10 years being built and operated by an artist, I guess, who was learning as he's going. That kind of already plugged some pretty big holes. I mean, poked some pretty big holes in the ship that were being plugged, but too much water was still coming on.
Yeah.
So, and then trying to find somebody to captain the ship while I'm like in my robot leaving.
Yeah. Right. Right.
So, and all I can
go ahead.
I mean, it's frustrating. I get mad or sad or regretful, but I mean, my response of laughing about it is like, fuck, what do you do? You know, I learned what I did.
Yeah.
So
you're the equivalent of a jazz musician in that CEO spot for a good 10 years where you're just kind of ad-libbing your way through.
Yeah.
You're making it work. It sounds all right. There's some times where we hit a bad note and it's clunky. And then you realize at some point, I got to add a little Bach. I got to add some structure to what we're doing here, because otherwise you spend all your energy away.
Yeah, for sure. But that's another thing with me, even with playing music. When I did, I'm very driven and I work really hard, and I work myself into, I think, what a normal person would be obliterated or exhausted by, at least. And I've worked myself into exhaustion a lot, but I've said this before, I'll run into a wall and it's starting to maybe crack. So I'm like, I can knock this wall down. Instead of scaling it, I didn't know how to scale it, but I'd run into it till I was unconscious.
Yeah.
And I've done that pretty much with everything my whole life. And I still am like, I'm going to try this again. And that's it can be positive for an entrepreneur to keep a business alive because they're so headstrong. But at the same time, it can be very detrimental or kill a business.
Yeah. It's that professional masochism and
literally.
Naivety to think, okay, I have a really high pain tolerance.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just got to put your head down and run through a wall. It really requires you to have an ecosystem of people around you who you trust enough to pull you aside and be like, hey, dude, you don't have, there's a ladder right there. Like you can just go over that wall.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Or that you can give the reins and just be like, hey, I don't want the reins at all. Don't hand them back to me. Don't look at me. I think it's all clarity. Yeah. I mean, if you have that communication and that clarity and that intent, that's still kind of a daily thing for me, even with my kids or with marriage or with what I'm doing now work wise. I mean, you got to be able to have the clarity to proceed.
What's your sense of the term imposter syndrome or your experience with it?
Mine is, and I learned this getting into therapy when I was 19, 20, 21, when I was coming out of realizing addiction stuff or mental just issues I was trying to figure out, confusion. An idealized self-image is what the first guy I met with a lot for years was helping me realize. My imposter syndrome was more like, I think I'm this, I am this, I want to be this, and I would personify that. Like my idealized self-image is trying to be a rock star. My idealized self-image is owning a business. My idealized self-image is being not failing. Not my idealized self-image is being a poet, an author, a poet, whatever it is, and then not really knowing who I am or who I was. So the imposter syndrome thing I've heard, and I guess I understand that or get that, but at the same time, mine has been based more on, as cheesy as it sounds, like learning who figuring out who I am because I got so far away from who I am or who
Mhm.
I was. I mean, I'm 45 and I'm still trying to figure out what do I like,
Mm.
because I was either so influenced by what I thought I was. Now I sound like a schizophrenic. Or I was so influenced by what people I liked like. Like if I admire this person for strengths I don't have, what does this person enjoy or like or follow or where do they get their fuel?
Right.
And I'd be like, okay, I want to be like them because I was so like I didn't have a core. And I think that's upbringing stuff, or even we talked about some religiosity, and yeah, just not having positive uh, influence or leadership in my life.
Yeah.
So,
The imposter syndrome experience for me, you'd mentioned earlier, like sitting in meetings with managers and feeling suffocated.
hmm
And I've had mentors where, for all the things you just listed, like the things that they're passionate about, I tend to try to adopt,
hmm
or the things that they're good at. I look at them and I admire them and I realize, like, okay, that's something he's really good at that that's a weak spot for me.
yeah,
So if I'm sitting in a manager meeting or in a finance meeting and we're planning, budgets for next quarter and looking at KPIs
right,
and I recognize 30 minutes into the meeting, like, oh man, I'm dying a slow death in this meeting. I can't keep
yeah,
doing this. But then also knowing, oh, I've got this mentor who was kind of a finance nerd and really was able to optimize his business
hmm
by putting in financial guardrails. Man, I'm not going to be that guy.
right,
So that's where my imposter syndrome comes in. It's
yeah,
like, well, if this business requires the CEO to be that,
hmm
could I spend time learning finance deeply and, coming up with a strategy? Okay. Like I could probably get 75% of the way there.
yeah,
I'm never going to add that additional 25. It's too much of a slog for me if I don't love it.
yeah, yeah. I know, and I mean that's exactly what it's taken me 5 years being out of a CEO or president position or founder of a company where man, if I was able to go back in, I mean, I'd start it different and run it different, but in at that point in it where it's like, whoa, we have investors, we have board members with a shit ton of experience. If I at that time could have said, you guys, I know that don't manage me and don't expect things from me. Like I'm gonna sit in on these. And then as soon as I started realizing, like, not only am I not good at this is depleting the good things about me, but I'm never going to be able to do it
Mm,
in a way that would be beneficial at all. And you guys are all good at it. Let's figure out a role for me that is not that, or I know what my role is. Um, I think that's kind of more exactly what you're saying, where uh, that would have been more beneficial for any company or situation I was in or I have been in.
yeah. So how would you have done it differently? Hindsight being 2020, you would try to extract yourself operationally from the pieces of the business that were taking your soul away.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things I would have done differently from the beginnings of startups, from coffee service industry stuff, shoe store in the beginning, sneaker store. I mean, financial stuff, but even the shoe company I started, I think if I would have known or had the plan to be able to know what it even meant to raise funds.
Mm,
So I wasn't drawing lines of credit and credit cards and pulling mortgages and stuff. Um, but having somebody in place to build a team.
yeah.
Because I had the vision to form it and to brand it and uh, progress it, but then yeah, being able to say like this is not uh, yeah, or and this is sad too, being able to know when to call it quits.
Uh-huh.
Like I've told some people that with their businesses lately that hire me to consult, I do that because I tell them what not to do or what I should have done, and that helps them. Uh, those 2 or 3 times in the companies where it was like, "Ship's sinking, dude." I should have just let it sink.
Yeah. But you can hold your breath a long time.
A really long dude, I can let the ship go to the bottom of the
Yeah.
ocean, and I'm still holding on to the ship, like, "We're
Yeah.
gonna get it back up on the water."
Yeah.
And again, the things I learned in that and know in that now, I'm able to say the relationships and the experience and the business function at what I've learned, but the degree I have in the street smarts or hard knocks or whatever. Uh, that's what I can take from it. But
Mm,
being on a team now of a group of real estate that I'm on and having my role in it, but not being the leader is amazing.
really.
Like the stuff that I work with the team lead on, because he can bounce stuff off of me because I've been in his position for 4 or 5 times as long as a business owner. He's dealing with the stuff I dealt with. And when he's telling me what he's dealing with, I'm like, I'm so glad I'm not you.
Mm.
Um, but
Is
he's
that
up
just a
for it now.
phase of life thing? Like, do you feel like you're just in a phase of life where what life requires of you as dad and husband
Mhm.
is incongruent with what it would require of you to hold your breath while the ship goes to the bottom?
Right.
So it's better to just have the gig for a while?
Yeah. I mean, maybe. I mean, I've just now for the first time thought like maybe I would start another business when before I've been like, hell no.
Yeah.
But I would do it raising money from the beginning, like write a real business plan, projections, P&Ls, all these things. I didn't even know what they were. I
Mm.
learned them a decade into the businesses. And do what we're talking about. Hire the right people, plug in the right team, have the right people. And I see this. I know people that started businesses when I did that I'm still watching
Mm.
them grow their businesses. And I know them personally and stuff they deal with and don't, and where they are emotionally and spiritually. But the fact from the very beginning, they said, this is who I am. I'm forming this company. This is what I'm going to do in this company. So that everybody coming on knew that.
Hmm.
Um, and then the business to succeed because those people that are really good at what they do that start it and define what they're doing off the bat um, have the support system from the beginning, but are also saying this is how this ship is built and this is how it's going to run.
Mm.
Man, I was always piecing it together as I went along.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, just battle scars are the things that when you go into the next battle, you've learned from,
right.
okay, I can't leave my ribs exposed there. I'm going to get clipped.
Yeah. Well, and I need to have a shield.
And I need to have
wear a helmet.
shield. And I need to
Yeah.
make sure that guy's got his shield and sword
Yeah.
ready. And
Yeah. There's a lot of metaphors for a lot of it that I experienced along the way, but even now. But I think along the way, figuring it all out as I was going is that's rough. And
yeah.
I think a lot of people do that, but I just kept hanging on and kept pushing.
How hard
So
is it for you to separate your ego or your professional identity from things you've done in the past?
I
Or
think
are you
it's,
not the type of person that struggles with that?
well, I didn't know what any of that was during at the times because I was working so hard. And a lot of the time I was miserable. So my ego was already depleted in the process of stocking shoes or closing cafes or cleaning toilets. And it was like, you can't have an ego in it. But outside of it, it was like, oh, I'm the owner of this. I'm the founder of this. I was the CEO of this.
Yeah. You walk in the green room today and Paul walks in with a HELM Boots
Right.
shirt on.
And that is like, oh man, that's cool. But at the same time, there's a slight tinge of remorse or of, man, we should have kept that going. But then it's like, same thing. We talked about like music or the band or whatever, where it's like, there's always going to be, yeah. What did you ask me before that about? Oh, um, what did you ask me?
I asked you about separating your ego and
Oh, my
identity
ego. Yeah.
from what you've done in the
It's
past.
been really hard leaving all that and again, whatever you had said, the bio in my LinkedIn was or whatever. And I don't know exactly what it is, but it's hard for me. I realize, even though I am trying to act humble about things, to not say, well, I started this, or I do this, or I'm an entrepreneur, or I come from this, instead of just saying like, hey, I do real estate now,
Yeah.
or it's really hard for me to say something like, yeah, I'm a realtor, because there's the persona of that or the thought of that, or in a million years, you'd never tell me I would do that based on what I've done. So now I'm like, oh, I do things off market, or I do things commercial deals, or I do large land deals. And it's like, that's that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
my ego. And
Well,
I
if you
had
can't
that now.
summarize it in one word, you probably haven't thought about it enough anyways, right?
That too.
Dad, husband, entrepreneur, creative.
That's why that feels good to be able to say like that. It's like, I would really like to be able to say, who cares what I do career wise?
Right.
But that always was kind of in the forefront for me.
Yeah.
So,
It's hard when you've dedicated a decade of your life to a professional pursuit
mhm.
where your logo ends up on t-shirts and you see them out in the wild. Like,
Yeah,
I don't have that experience.
yeah,
I'll never forget being in, what is it, Heathrow, that's in London,
yeah.
and walking through Heathrow and seeing a guy with an On It shirt
Oh,
on.
yeah.
And we had just started working with On It. So
Oh,
I
cool.
saw it because I recognized the logo.
Yeah,
And I thought, man, that's cool. And then realizing when you start an IT business, like a services business,
yeah,
you're not going to make it cool enough that you're going to run into your logo out in the wild like that.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
I can really appreciate it. And I'm always curious to know, okay, think about your 80-year-old self.
yeah.
You make it to 80 and you're looking back at your professional life.
Mhm.
Is Helm Boots the defining feature?
No,
I
hell
don't
no.
I don't think so
Yeah.
either.
It's cool to see people wearing them, or somebody will send me a picture of somebody wearing them, or somebody's like, "I still have this pair from 2009," and that's cool. Or people reminding me stories of events, or a boot that like I named after them, like something cool like
Mhm.
that, or a periodical that has it. And same with the coffee shop. Um, I get messages or texts or emails about like, remember this, or I saw this band that played there and now they've blown up and stuff. There's a That's cool, but no, I don't. I'd almost rather there not have been any
Mhm.
of that. I I have these moments. This is totally segue, but to where it's like, here's what I would want to be remembered for. Um, is when people are like, I experienced him like this, or he. I love to be places and pull people out or lift them up, or where you feel like you feel somebody when you interact with them.
Mhm.
I would want that, like, I don't know if I've ever thought of that question you asked me, but there was a girl at the gym this morning, and I'm in this area stretching, and she's over here, and I had just talked to you, and I'm like, dude, I'm blasted, I'm out of it mentally, and she was crying, and I don't know why, but like I was just took my headphone off, went over there and patted her back, and I was like, "Yo, do you need anything? You okay? What's going on or whatever?" And she was like, "No, I'm fine, just dealing with some family stuff." I'm like,
Mm.
"Okay, cool," but like it lifted me out of my own like forlorn maudlin setting to be able to be like, I hope maybe that helped that girl. And then I brought her like a tissue later, because she kept crying.
Mm.
And then I didn't want to be intrusive, but just I think the thought of somebody doing that, even for me, is like, whoa, like
Yeah.
that mattered, or I felt that person, or that was more powerful than a pair of shoes.
Right.
So, but it is cool when something embodies, it is cool when a brand has almost like a familial, as does a restaurant or a cafe or a bar, where it's like, oh man, I was part of that in the beginning, or
Yeah.
when I go there, I feel like I'm part of the team, the crew, the sorry, I'm kind of all over the
No,
place. So.
the team part of it that's an interesting, it's a path we could walk down, but we probably don't want to,
Mhm.
'cause I think we could spend a whole hour on
Oh,
it.
sure, yeah.
But when you're the founder,
Mhm.
when you're the guy at the top of the mountain
Yeah,
who was there from the get-go,
yeah,
it's very hard to be a part of the team.
yeah, true, especially as new people are coming on.
That's right. Because the new people that come on and the bigger the thing gets, the more
Mhm.
separated you are from them in their position, and the less likely it is that you find yourself in a room with those people where you're getting the authentic version of them and not
Right.
the dolled up version because the CEO's in the room.
Yeah, that's true. Never thought of it that way.
That's a thing for me that's been hard.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially for you with what you do and the team, yeah.
Well, when you're a person that recognizes authenticity in somebody
Mhm.
and you find yourself in a professional setting where you just know you're not getting the authentic version of that person and you're
Yeah,
not going to in like a happy hour context,
right.
um, that's suffocating. It can
Yeah,
be a little suffocating.
yeah, that's different.
Yeah. When you okay, so we've talked a little bit about depression and kind of the way that your day started or the way that your week has gone.
Mhm.
Do you find any correlation with what you're doing professionally, your level of fulfillment from what you're pursuing, and depressive episodes?
Yeah, for
Is there a
sure.
correlation there to it?
Yeah, I think it's a performance thing as well. I mean, again, I love the people aspect and the relationship aspect of it. What I have that I've never had before is like making a living.
Yeah.
I have the income coming in, so that helps. But yeah, I just don't think it's something that I'm trying to think of that. I don't feel fulfilled by it in terms of what did I do today that,
Mm-hmm.
like connected the dots that would kind of help me feel like I did something with
Mm-hmm.
not with intent, but with a sense of accomplishment, or
Purpose.
yeah, purpose is more what it is. It's not. I feel like I'll accomplish things, but I really like the aspect of getting to know the people on both sides of it and all around of it. But then I realized like this is a job.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. I really felt like before it was a lifestyle and a people connection aspect, but now, and maybe that's the ego part where I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? What is my life now? What is,
Yeah.
but the further I step back and realize it really people don't care, or it
Mm.
doesn't really matter.
That doesn't necessarily make the depression any better, though.
No,
when
not at all.
when you get to the end of that rope and you're left with, who gives a shit? Like
Literally.
nobody cares.
Yeah.
It doesn't bring you out of that pit of despair very well.
True. Well, especially when you need to be there for your kids, your teenage kids, or your wife who even depends on you.
Yeah.
And has been dealing with you having these pretty catastrophic dips.
Yeah.
25 years, that I even had problems with before I met her. But man, I'll have these runways of clarity, and everything's up for a while. And even my team members now and my team lead and stuff, just recently, it's like, oh man, like Joshua's got something that he deals with and has been dealing with, and uh, trying to assess and medicate and be in therapy for things for a long time.
Yeah.
And just running out of fight.
Do you find that you have, I guess, first ways to identify when you're in what Lincoln would call the hypo? That was the term he used.
Mm.
Are you able to identify it in real time? Like, oh, I'm in the pit of despair right now. Or do you only recognize it in hindsight?
I'm able to kind of catch the beginning of it, maybe the last year or 18 months for the first time ever.
Like when you can feel it coming on?
Yeah, where I've worked on it enough therapy wise, and even with my wife, where I'll be like, okay, I don't think I'm just tired. Like something's coming over me. We've always called it this, or I've always called it this, feels like a space helmet, or like water's in the space helmet, or like a big, heavy, wet, warm blanket is on me. And everything gets where it feels like you have a helmet on. That's the only way I was ever able to explain it. And I'll be like, okay, I think this is that. And I either need to like just go lay down for a while or do something, or go be around people is what I have found is a big solve for it. But when it gets bad enough, nothing's really solving it, and there is the part of like, where it's okay to be down. You don't have to try to take pills to get out of it or whatever, but it is something where it's been long enough and going on long enough, and that it feels genetic or whatever it was we were talking about, that I'm able to maybe 12 hours, 24 hours before be like, okay, this isn't because I didn't sleep well. Like whatever it is coming over me. That helmet, I woke up and that helmet's on. So yeah, we it's still not easy, like it's not usually the best timings.
It's not the best timing.
Yeah. Or I get real frustrated with myself. I used to get even more self-deprecate, or like,
yeah, flagellating.
Yeah, to myself.
Yeah,
because even I would feel that way or wake up.
Well, because you're a performer. So when you recognize I'm not going to be able to perform at my best when I'm in this state,
in anything,
the longer you stay in it, the worse it gets. It's this self-perpetuating thing. You want more of this coffee?
Sure.
Yeah, very much so. It becomes a cyclical, self-perpetuating machine that you're depressed because you recognize you're depressed, and then it makes you more depressed, and it keeps you down in that funk.
Well, I get pissed. I get mad at myself. And I have to cancel stuff, or I'm just now, though, again, the last year or so being like, fuck, it's just part of me and I have to deal with it as I deal with it. Cause
Yeah.
I am somebody who spirals or goes into my head and I used to be more like, woe is me and everything's so hard. I'm tortured artist and that. I'm not like that anymore. Now it's like, okay, here it is. I'm going to push through it. I'm going to bring light into the darkness. I'm going to fight this, whatever it is, this black dog. Uh, but then I literally won't have any fight.
Mm.
Like I think we were texting this morning. I've been more open. I mean, we're talking about it right now, but I've been more open with people lately, um, where it's like it literally feels like there's weights on my ankles and my wrists and my head like an anvil. And I'm just open about it. I talk about it now. And again, I'm talking about like from when I was a teenager.
Mm.
Now that I'm experiencing as an adult, it's not an excuse. I mean, I don't like going to the office to be like, guys, I can't work. I can't handle this. Or I don't want my wife to come home and I'm face planted, just prostrate and have been for who knows how long
Mm.
and not getting anything done or not functioning or the kids being affected by it. I don't want that. Um, but when it's out of control or it feels like it's from outside of myself, I don't know what to do. But talking about it now is not isolating in it. You and
Yeah.
I were talking about like that isolation aspect is probably the most detrimental thing to do,
And
especially when
when
you're
you're in the hypo too, that's what it wants you to do.
oh yeah, it's time just climb in a hole
Yeah. Don't
and shut
burden
it
people
down.
with your bullshit.
Ugh,
Just go away for a little bit until it passes.
that's exactly how I feel. And I don't want that's what I don't like with being more open about it as I don't need sympathy. But when somebody understands it or realizes it, or I mean, not even like a disease or whatever, where somebody's like, uh, okay, take a breather. Not like, how are you? Okay, let's talk there. But where it's just like, hey, man, care about you. Come back around when you can.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, just a release of, I can't release myself. So for somebody else to be like, I get it, uh, or we can reschedule or something like that, that's pretty emancipating in terms of the situation, the setting. But
Yeah. I there are times when I just need somebody to acknowledge that, yeah, I get that you're there and whatever, take all the time you need.
yeah, yeah, that's
But
huge.
I'm the type of person also that needs my tight circle of particularly guys
Uh huh.
that know me well enough to know when I slip into that mode, sometimes you're going to have to come over and grab me by the collar and be like, nope,
Yeah,
outside.
so
Let's go. Let's go do something
yeah, that's huge.
just to have some momentum to be able to get out of my head and into my body a little bit because the
Yeah,
weights of that depression will just guarantee your spot in the pit of despair in
yeah,
perpetuity.
yeah, for sure. And I mean, having those relationships, that's invaluable. But I think I'm just now, over, like I said, the last year or so, being open enough about it or talking enough about it to enough people that are in my circle, at least, that they check in. Um, and sometimes it's like hunky dory, everything's cool, and then other times I'm like, shit, they're checking in when I'm starting to crawl in the hole, so I got to come out.
Mm, yeah,
That being a good thing.
right.
So, but it doesn't help with clarity of thought either, which is why I mean, we're talking and it's awesome, but I haven't like it's kind of fuzzy, like gray.
Yeah,
I mean, I can't Monday, even part of Tuesday, I couldn't even have a conversation, and that doesn't help.
yeah. You can know that you're in it intellectually,
Yeah,
and you can even know that I recognize that this thing's plugging me into the couch and I don't need to do that. You can know it intellectually in the moment and
hmm,
still like, whatever, I'm still gonna lay on that couch.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No matter what I'm trying, I can't because We talked about that. I'm a go. I want to go and I want to go hard and I want to go 100%. Even like I'll get myself to go run like I did today. If I wouldn't have done that, cliff dive, man.
Yeah.
Um,
You learn little strategies to know, okay, I'm going into this. I need to execute the XYZ plan
right,
to at least try to shorten the time horizon that I'm gonna come out of it.
right. Which I'd rather work and get 1,000 things done, but and feel that accomplishment or completion. But like you just said, to be able, I mean, sometimes it's like walk outside, close my eyes, and look up on the sun, feel it on my face. that's as much as I could do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's better than not doing that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm relatively new into my depressive stage of my life. I haven't had it really for 25 years.
Huh.
Mine's been more in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And it seems to have a seasonal element to it.
Yeah.
It seems to me to be correlated with the amount of time that I'm able to spend in the sun.
Wow. That's good to know.
Wintertime, late wintertime, especially like coming into spring when my skin's at its whitest and I haven't been able to be outside
Yeah.
taking in, sun and outside air.
Uh-huh.
There's a correlation there for me for sure. It also has a lot to do with what we talked about earlier. If I'm spending my time on things that I don't recognize have meaning to them,
Huh. Yeah. You
I'm
know that.
much more likely to slip into that funk.
Yeah.
And to an outsider looking at it, you would think, okay, well, then just do what makes you happy. But then
Mhm.
at some point you realize happiness is not the metric I'm after.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of time it's like, for me, it's like, what is that
Yeah.
makes me happy? I mean,
Happiness is fleeting.
yeah, is that, yeah. And that would seem so far away at any times where you're this out of gas that,
Uh-huh. Well, a lot
yeah.
of times you need a thing to go work on and chew on and expend mental and physical energy into that's productive.
Mhm.
None of it would leave you with the sense of happiness at the end of it. But
Yeah.
you would have the sense of, I just pursued something meaningful and challenging and fulfilling in a way that, yeah, I'm not necessarily happy at the end of it, but I did something today.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, even where you were like, yo, come out to the ranch. And I was already about to start to run, but you were like, come out to the ranch and carry some kettlebells or whatever on this trail. And I
Yeah.
was like, fuck, like that would actually be really beneficial or helpful. Not to like go shred, but just to carry some weight and move.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't if it wasn't an invite, or I wouldn't go do that alone, or I wouldn't have thought of that even
Yeah.
because like I can barely think of what's next.
Right.
Uh,
I'm big into stories and I'm big into like analogies that go along with a thing that I'm doing.
mhm.
And the analogy of I'm going to take myself and my weight, and then I'm going to also take this additional weight and put it on my shoulder.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go walk.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I'm going to carry this weight. There's an analogy to that with particularly where we're at in life, because we're
Mhm.
carrying weight that's more than, our body produces. We're
Right.
carrying family, we're carrying professional aspirations and
Mhm.
goals.
Yeah.
We're carrying extended family dynamics that aren't always healthy and,
Right.
they don't always feel like they're worth the time and mental energy you invest into them.
For sure.
Yeah. So sometimes that analogy of just getting out of your head and putting some weight on your shoulder and walking for a long freaking time, because that's what's
Mhm.
required of you, is enough. It's enough of a pause in the pit of despair
Mhm.
to recognize your path out of it.
Well, exactly what you're saying with the weight part, but for me as well, and this has been part of working out that I'm learning how to balance, and I've done this my whole life, where there's like a self pain, an infliction of uh, punishing myself for feeling this way, or punishing myself for shortcomings,
Mm.
or punishing myself for regrets or things that I feel like I did wrong or do wrong or am doing wrong. So to me, the aspect of that being more of symbolic or release, carrying the weight and being active, for me, it's like I want to go not hurt myself, but I want to go in a healthier way. I
Mhm.
want to go run till I can't run anymore. And that pseudo manic, but like I want to go carry as much weight as I can, as far as I can, because then it feels like I'm balancing out the selfishness of uh, depression.
Mhm.
And I know that's far from healthy, but it's so much better than drinking into a state of oblivion, which I have done and did for a
Yeah.
long time, or off and on. I don't anymore, not today. Or, like even like cigarettes or drugs or anything like that. For me, to go work out instead of that,
Yeah.
or to go sauna, cold plunge until I'm like completely
Exhausted.
depleted.
Yeah.
That's what I do. And I mean, I've realized though, and it took me a long time to realize, like, okay, that will bring me out. I just have to get there. I have
Yeah.
to get to the trail. I have to get to the sauna. I have to get, because I'll get in my car and just be like, I can't function.
Hmm.
But I think it's twofold for me on what you were saying. Even people at the gym at Ethan's place at Strive, we talked about that place, right?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Bastrop Fitness.
Yeah.
People be like, dude, like multiple classes in a row, or why do you work out so hard or that long, or you just push yourself to the furthest limit every time? It's not because I'm like CrossFit or I want to shred or whatever. It's because I'm like, I will feel a relief of pain
Yeah.
from causing that pain or from exhaustion.
I'm gonna let you off the hook on this though, because I mean, anything
You're like, what the
anything you
hell?
do, yeah, I'm gonna defend your honor.
Oh,
here,
okay.
Because anything, if taken to its extreme, can be unhealthy.
True.
We could drink coffee all day, all
Let's brew
night.
more. Yeah.
Your teeth are gonna end up stained. You're gonna
Right.
be jittery.
Yeah.
However, you know what it takes to break a horse?
I've seen Robert Redford do it.
If you got a young horse
Yeah.
who's never been saddle broke,
Uh-huh.
there's an energy level that horse has that you will not break through until that horse no longer has the energy to fight it.
Right.
And sometimes you've got this level of energy that you operate on,
Mm-hmm.
that's that sort of untrained pony.
Mm-hmm.
And you recognize, like, it's not serving me well, and it's not serving the people for whom I'm responsible
Right.
well.
Right.
So the best way for me to get this thing under control and put a saddle on it and a
Mhm.
bit in its mouth and, be able to actually steer that energy to something productive, I got to go
Mhm.
wear that thing out first.
I gotta break it.
I got to break that horse every once in a while.
Over
And every once in a
over.
while, somebody with our energy, because I have it too,
Mhm.
I don't want to be broken. No, I want to go and be wild today and run free. And I'm not going to be the best version of myself if I allow that to go for too long.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've never thought about it that way. I think the danger of it for me, and I've talked to my psychiatrist about this a lot, is if you get hurt in that process, then you're screwed.
Yeah.
If you can't run, if you hurt your knee, if you hurt your ankle, if you separate your shoulder, and you can't go do those things that for you are those breaking aspects that you need.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Well, yeah, you gotta mature at some point and recognize you're a 45-year-old man
And,
who is breakable.
Limitations,
Yeah.
dude. I mean, it has taken me still daily accepting limitations, and I'm accepting it now, that I'm wounded or have weaknesses, and acknowledging them. Well, I didn't used to be able to do that.
Yeah. It
I
comes
mean,
with maturity.
Well, even accepting, like, yeah, it does come with maturity. I think accepting limitations, and then also like, yeah, those are the only accepting that I'm wounded and that I have extreme weaknesses,
Sure.
instead of just fighting them, or instead of denying it,
Right.
or just being negligent of their existence.
You know what helps with that?
What?
Hanging out with old people,
That makes
particularly old
sense.
men.
Yeah.
So I have a breakfast group that I meet with every Wednesday.
Yeah, I heard you meant the old man breakfast.
The old man. I call it the old man breakfast, but
That's
I'm the
cool.
only one of us that does.
You're the one that's not the old man.
That's right.
On the outside.
I am the youngest by a big margin. The
Mhm.
second youngest is 76, and they range from 76 up to, I think Joe's almost 90. And every Wednesday, there's at least 6 of us. Most of the time, there's 8 or 9 of us around a table.
Uh-huh.
The thing that helps with that is that you recognize that there's going to be a future version of yourself, Lord willing, that
Huh.
lives beyond the whatever it is that you're in now,
Yeah.
and is going to have the benefit of hindsight of knowing, when I was 45, I was going through this, and this. But you have the benefit of that hindsight, knowing that you survived it,
Hmm.
and then the recognition of, here's the things that I did during that time that I'm proud of.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the things I did during that time that I'm really embarrassed about, that I regret.
Mm-hmm.
And I have those from my teens through my 20s and 30s of stuff that I can realize Man, I'm glad I made those decisions. Starting a business, having the gumption to walk away from a really good job and start a company. Proud of that.
Mhm.
But then there's this list.
Yeah.
And when you spend time around old people, you're acutely aware of these guys all have lived through the age that I'm living through now, plus 30 years.
Mhm.
And there's things that I know that they regret. And I just want to avoid this list growing as
Mhm.
much as possible.
Yeah.
Do you think about your old self ever?
If I do, I get kind of too existent. Like I'll be laying there in bed and start to think of death and those kind of things that I have been more the last few years. But I feel like, what if this guy Joe's the same guy you're talking about? I went and ran with this group last weekend. I almost went this morning, but I couldn't. A group that runs old Bastrop people,
Huh.
guys and girls. But I mean, the guy I paced with last week was 76, and we did 6 miles on the trail together. And no way would I've gone as fast as we did, or I probably would have dropped off at 4 miles because the amount of hills and rocks. Man, I stuck with him. And one of the guys was 90.
Good grief.
And he made it the first 2 miles of the trail. But what? 2 miles, 90 years old, 10-minute pace on a trail.
That's wild.
But what I was going to say with what you're saying, man, I have a problem that I need to probably work through and address over time that I do need to, is my list of regrets is a book, the stuff where it's like, I'm proud of myself. It's like, okay, there's these things, but this is still what brings me down. Not like it used to, but of the things that I'm like, I should have, could have, would have. Even when I'm aware that a lot of that is fallacy. But watching these guys and running with these guys, I had, and this might be the first time ever, almost like a hope of, okay, I've got some more time in me, even if it's just physical, or if that was a metaphor for me. I'm like, I've run a marathon. I just started running during the pandemic. I had never run more than a few miles before that. And it's become huge for me. And that was an older guy that got me into running, a neighbor. But these guys, I was like, they run ultras and they run marathons. And I think it was more symbolic. These guys are healthy, and these guys are vivacious, and these guys are laughing, and they're enjoying life. And they are 76 through 90, literally were the ages.
Yeah.
And the ladies too. And some of them have not run long, and some of them run over half their lives. But I was just like, I think as a whole, watching these people and that they meet up 3 times a week and run, I think there was the community aspect of it, but the aspect of like, I still have some life in me.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times, even at 45, I've been like, man, how am I going to make it that much longer?
Yeah.
Um,
Do you fear it?
I don't know.
Or do you just try to not think about it?
No, I do. I will think about it, but I literally enter like this kind of dark, not in a bad way, dark. I mean, Sarah, my wife, and we both read a lot, and we'll be laying there at night reading, and I'll start to say something and she'll be like, don't
do that.
Well, because I'll be like, dude, like it'll just be like that. That's how I'll start it. And I'm like, where do we even go? Like I'll become this weird surfer. Like it just goes to where it's like, what am I talking about? But I can't put it to words, but it's that whole, like, how big the universe is, and I go into it.
Yeah.
So that's the answer. And then with my folks getting older, you were talking about family stuff, and my brother's 10 years older than me. And I'm like, holy shit, we're all aging.
Yeah.
Or to see pictures or run into people, not only from growing up, but like in town that I worked with or worked at one of my companies 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa, dude, this is weird.
It's what midlife crisis is made of.
Yeah.
When you recognize, like, I'm no longer a young man.
Yeah.
But I don't have near the experience of these mentors that I'm around.
Right.
So I'm just sort of in this weird middle ground of, like, I know I'm going to die one day, but I have people that I'm responsible for, and I can't be dying.
I think that's what hits me the most. Is I get real sorrowful thinking about my kids not having a father figure, when they need it.
Right.
And Sarah's convinced me a lot about that, or reminds me, she's like, our girls need you, or they like being, or our son loves you and he wants to hang out with you and everything. I'm like, he does,
Yeah.
or they do, like, oh yeah, I'm their I'm their
Yeah.
dad. I need to be there, and that seems so simple, but I mean it is. It doesn't need to complicate it, but
Yeah. Are you somebody that has a tough time celebrating victories?
yeah, yeah, for sure, or birthdays or
Yeah.
holidays, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm learning to be able to, but then I'm always like, if I can close this, if I can do this, if I can make this, and then if it does happen, I'm like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I do think that's a thing that the future version of myself will regret.
Not being able to
Not
celebrate.
having a methodology built where I can pause in real time
Yeah,
and honestly evaluate the things that have been accomplished that I was a direct, contributor to,
yeah,
and pat myself on the back, because I'm not that guy at all. What I said earlier about being proud of being able to start a business, like,
yeah.
that's still not something I celebrate. We had our 10-year anniversary this last year, and,
Hmm.
leadership team wants to go out to lunch to celebrate it. And I'm like, I got stuff to do.
So
I can't.
that's the response. I've got stuff to do. Not I'm not able to celebrate it. I mean, why?
Mm,
What's your gig? Why?
I think because you always recognize that there's more to be done. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, you got to 10 years, but what could the company have been had you been really, really focused on
I mean,
these
it's the
things that you
10-yard line.
weren't?
We're still 90 yards from the
That's it.
touchdown. Yeah.
It's realizing how much there still is to do,
Yeah.
and probably also having to reckon with that at times this business is not getting my full attention.
Mm.
It's not getting my full passion.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then you feel like you're leaving something in the tank, and, it's hard
Yeah.
to celebrate something that you recognize there's still work to be done, because
Yeah.
you see those things as mutually opposed. If
Hmm.
I've got something to pursue, well, then stopping to pop the champagne midstream when there's still stuff to be done
Yeah.
feels like a waste. What are we doing? I don't need a cake at 10 years. Let's just keep working.
Cake.
You know what I
Candles.
mean?
Yeah. No, it's weird though how and that's why I asked you that to expand, because I think we have a lot of similarities, but on different planes. When you asked me that, I was kind of surprised how quick you said, are you someone it's hard to celebrate victories or whatever like that? And I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Or do you have, however you asked it, and the quickness of my answer, I was like, oh man,
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of that, but I had a pretty prompt answer for it.
We talked earlier about the handful of people that you meet where you just instantly recognize that's somebody I have things in common with.
Hmm.
For the people on my short list where that's been the case,
Hmm.
let's say in the last like 5 years,
Yeah.
depressive spells is a common thread among them.
Sorry, I'm laughing. I
No,
laugh. I'm like, mark it up.
it is kind of funny.
Yeah.
Um, that's a common thread amongst every single person on that list.
Uh-huh.
Having a little bit of existential dilemma every once in a while. Why are we here?
Yeah.
Dude, what?
Yeah.
The universe is big, man. That's a common thread. They think deeper than most.
Yeah.
And then also the inability to celebrate victories or pat yourself on the back for things you're doing well.
Yeah. I've never thought of that.
That's a common thread amongst all of them.
Yeah.
And I have it too. So the thing that really screws with me is I look at somebody that doesn't think about the world that abstractly,
Mhm.
who just lives at this layer. They don't
Mhm.
need to get any deeper than,
Mhm.
just what am I doing today? What am I going to eat for lunch?
Right.
You know,
Are you jealous of that or judging them, or
I've
you
got a
don't?
little jealousy about
Yeah,
it.
yeah, dude. I thought you were gonna say like, "Well, what's their problem?" I'm like, "No,
No,
dude, I
it's the
want
opposite.
that.
Yeah.
I want to keep
It's
it
a thing of
simple."
like, man, I wish I didn't ever realize that I'm just a weird monkey creature on a ball of air and rock
Yeah.
spinning through the universe. It'd be better for me to just not ever have to think about that,
Yeah.
because the reality is, of all of the billions of people that have ever lived,
Yeah.
nobody knows for sure.
And we're
So why waste mental energy on a thing that you're never going to know the answer to?
right. Just kind of I mean, that's the difficulty of being present, is just what's right here, right now.
That's right.
Eckhart Tolle.
It's one of the things I really like about this sort of framing of a conversation,
Yeah.
where there's nobody else in the room,
4 walls.
4 walls.
Mhm.
The cameras sort of fade into the background pretty
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah.
I don't have my phone in my pocket.
Yeah, turn mine off, dude. That's
Yeah,
rad.
it's
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
for that reason alone.
It's pretty amazing.
It's worth the time investment.
Yeah, for
Okay,
sure.
so we talked about mentors
Uh-huh.
and the importance of being able to be in proximity to people that are way further down the road than you are in experience and just sheer years they put into things.
Yeah.
Tell me about a mentor in your life who made an impact on you in a way that's lasting.
Hmm. I don't. I wish I had more. That's probably an easy way to say it. I have a person in particular that I kind of abandoned our relationship. I don't know if it was when it wasn't serving me or because I realized some things I wasn't I didn't have enough of a core, like I said. Uh, I'm trying to think of, well, there's my aunt too, not by blood, but grew up with me in our home and lives in Istanbul now. She moved there like 20 years ago, but she was always somebody who. Were you asking why they were a mentor?
Just tell me about a mentor, somebody
Man,
that's had an impact on your life in a way that has lasted.
positive or negative?
Let's stick with positive.
Let's do that. Let's do that. It sucks that I'm not, and again, it might be where I'm at mentally, but it sucks that I'm not able to be like, oh, this person or oh, this person. But I think a lot of my perseverance or ability to be in touch with reality, but live on a plane of I'm capable of this. I can do, not I'm invincible, but like uh, I'm bulletproof or I can handle some shrapnel. That was definitely my aunt.
Yeah.
Her name's Kay, named my youngest daughter. Her middle name's Kay, but she's my best man at our wedding. She was somebody that when my family was as busy as they were, like we talked about with religious stuff, we went snowboarding, we went hiking. We would go to Yosemite Park. Like it was interesting that I had a relationship with her to the degree that I did, but I was really able to experience and learn from her just pure devotion. Not only, I mean, to God, like she has that's what has survived her because she was like hippie, uh, I think drug addict, like
Mm,
prior to getting into triathlons and everything, which watching her and listening to her and being part of her rearing me, kind of raising me to a degree was like, I like that this woman is so strong and that she does whatever she wants to business wise and she can help anybody out of anything, like some of it, it's like those are the people that you go, oh man, I mean, a lot of that's not very realistic, but it kind of gave me the gumption to be able to be like, I can do what I want to or put my mind to
mm,
in terms of anything, but also just that she was always there,
mm.
no matter what.
Yeah. The ever
Um,
presence was
Dude,
the thing.
no matter what, no matter where I was, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And she's actually who she knew Sarah, my wife now before, like she introduced us to a degree, but I was in a pretty dark place. And Kay, my aunt, had a picture of me on her keychain. So Sarah, when she met her, thought that was her son, but she's never been married and doesn't have
Uh,
kids or anything. But then Sarah and I ended up meeting not much longer after, which was pretty cool,
wow.
pretty crazy.
Is she still around?
Yeah, yeah. Kay is, well, actually she's stuck in she's stuck in London right now because there's issues with getting back into Turkey for um, because of the stuff going on Muslim wise.
Mm,
Uh, and
mm.
she's a Christian, that says it on your ID. Uh,
Really?
yeah, you're
Wow.
Muslim or Christian or I don't know if there's anything else you can put on it. But I mean, she was even stuck in the States for a long time. But I don't. We're like, when's she gonna get back into Istanbul?
Wow.
So that's crazy. But I mean, she started. I've done so many business things with her as well. But she started the shoe company with me
No
out
kidding.
of Istanbul. Yeah, I wouldn't have done it if that's the thing. I've been like, hey, I want to do this no matter what age I am. She's like, let's go.
Yeah.
I mean, who does that?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? And sometimes I'm like, oh man, that's why I've gotten myself in some of these holes.
Huh.
But at the same time, that's one of the things where it's like I wouldn't, now looking back on a lot of it, I wouldn't have done it different.
Yeah.
It had to happen that way.
Yeah. The importance of that kind of relationship where somebody that has gotten to a point in their life where they recognize what we talked about earlier about time, time being the precious element that you have a very finite amount of, but they were willing to invest it in you really without limitations,
literally,
for whatever reason. Those tend to be the most meaningful relationships.
Yeah, for sure.
So who do you mentor?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, more people that I think of than not are it's consulting stuff, you know, and it starts off or becomes something more where it's like, hey, I'm kind of helping you keep relationships and finances and your marriage protected before you decide that you're going to go start this business or grow it or try to expand it. But I don't think of, there might be people that say that I did or do or have, but I mean, I think of more probably anybody, my son, you know, and again, my wife tells me that, but Samuel, um, I'll realize a lot of certain things he does because I do them, or he does them with me or wants to do them with me. Um, and thankfully they're the healthy things.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, whether it be running or music, he's really into a lot of bands that, like, he found a whole bunch of my old CDs from who knows when. Um, but yeah, car stuff. But I mean, even he'll tell Sarah things like wanting to he works like he has a job, you know, he works like me because dad does. And he will send these texts where he's like, I'll tell him I'm proud of him about something, and he'll say, man, I do this because I've watched you do it. And I'm just like, whoa, what? You know, so
How
I think
old's he?
Samuel's 17.
17.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's always had a really strong work ethic, and he works out. I mean, he got into this Olympic weightlifting, and he's a taller, like skinnier dude, but he anything he's done, he's gone 1,000%. Reading, you know, he reads a lot of what we can really connect on movies and reading, and even going to like art museums and stuff. And I guess now that you're asking me, that is mentorship, you know, like he's mentored by me, but I've never thought of it that way till Sarah points it out.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he's mentored by her to a degree as well, but yeah.
Is it hard for you to acknowledge the positive impact you've made on your son even?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping that stuff, even like you said, and can relate to accepting victories or celebrating victories or whatever. To a degree, it's that same kind of thing where it's like, I can't accept a compliment. I'm learning how to say thank you for this, or I'm learning how somebody says something and I'm like, yeah, you know what, that was awesome. Not being like, oh no, I'm not cool, or that sucks, or whatever. Doing that with him, when Sarah says that, it took me a while to be able to say, or for him even texting me that stuff, to be able to be like, oh, you know what, that is a positive influence
Yeah.
on him. Because some dads don't positively influence or mentor their sons,
Right.
and that's usually pretty evident.
I find that the victories that I'm able to celebrate as it like related to my parenting of my boys, I have 2 sons.
Right.
The things that I celebrate is like, well, at least I didn't fuck them up today.
Right.
Like, because I know all the things that are in my sort of mental closet and history and things that I struggle with.
Yeah.
And, you know, if those things can die with me,
Yeah.
then me having a super positive influence on these boys is not as important. As long as I don't have a catastrophically bad, you know, mental relationship with them, then okay, that's good.
I'm very, now that you even ask, I'm very grateful for that aspect, because it's like the fact that the family's around, or that I haven't fucked things up, or that I don't drink, you know, excessively, and he would know or notice that or realize that. I mean, I don't drink, but like in terms of who I could be or would be, or that image I was telling you about that
Yeah.
attached to me since I was younger. It's like I'm still thinking I'm Charles Bukowski or something stupid. It's really cool that I'm not that, or that he's not influenced by me in that way.
Yeah. To be clear, I don't think that it's a good thing to stop there. Like I'm saying this to you, realizing that it's just as true or more true about me.
Just that we didn't.
Well, it's this, like, you have a level of self-criticism and drive
Yeah.
that stems from really deep down, at least for me,
Mhm.
the knowledge that I'm kind of a piece of shit at times too, or have been in my life, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, I do know.
And
Not you, I know. But
yeah,
I know what you mean.
Yeah,
No.
you just met me, jackass.
I was like, I don't know you that well, but if you say so.
Yeah. But I don't think it's a healthy thing to only be proud of your uh, fatherly influence on your kids because you didn't turn them into a piece of shit. Like,
Yeah, that's a good point.
You have to take it a step further and recognize if you have a healthy relationship with your 17-year-old son,
Right.
where you're texting him that you're proud of him or telling him you love him at the end of the day and he's returning in kind,
Yeah.
not everybody gets there, hombre.
That's huge. Yeah, that
You know
is
what I mean?
huge. Or yeah, like let's go see a movie, or hey, let's go take a run. I'm like, you really? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's foreign. That, yeah, I mean,
And it's not just because you didn't fuck him up today. It's because you actually took the time in 17 years to cultivate a closeness with your kid
yeah,
that, many dads that don't take that time.
yeah,
Yeah, you don't arrive at that accidentally.
yeah, that's cool. That's true. I mean, that's another example of like, I'm not aware of it. And then it's realizing it. And it's like, oh man. That's
Well,
cool.
don't celebrate it too much. I can't.
No cake.
Don't go off brand. Yeah, don't pop the champagne yet.
Don't.
You good to keep talking?
Yeah. However, dude,
we're past the hour, but I want to keep going.
Yeah, whatever.
You good with that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not as, this isn't how I would normally be. So in terms of like clarity and, like I said, just not candor. I don't know. Maybe this is just
openness.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty much always open, but I wouldn't keep coming back to the gray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the principles of AA, like in the big book, I have not been through AA. I've only had very close friends that have gone through it and talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
It's in meetings every day, multiple times a day.
Right.
And one of the things that a buddy of mine said that stuck with me was that one of the best ways to treat addictive behavior is to talk it to death.
Yeah.
And there's an adjacency between addiction and depression.
Yeah.
That's that cyclical thing of like, it keeps you in it and wants to self-perpetuate and make it worse and worse.
Right.
And that by sitting and being able to talk about it,
yeah,
and being willing to do it over and over and over again,
right.
talk it to death.
Right.
Sometimes that's the toehold you need to claw your way out of it.
This is true.
That's been my experience for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, AA saved my life after I went to a treatment center when I was 19. And after that, staying sober for 5 years was all AA.
Yeah.
I mean, a couple meetings a day for years.
Yeah. Just to give you the toehold.
Yeah. And that process, and even when I'd go back out and come back and go back out the 12 steps and having a sponsor or just people that were in the program, that was, I wouldn't have made it without Be Alive.
Yeah. I know a lot of people on that list
are also
that have that story.
I'm making the cut, dude.
You are making the cut. This was an interview. You didn't even know.
Checking off the boxes, dude.
That's why I have all these boxes to check.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I'm in the Tanner crew, the Tanner posse. We got to think of a better word.
You're part of the AF piece of it. You're the and Friends.
Okay.
The TVAF.
Right.
You're part of the and Friends group.
I'm in, dude.
Is work-life balance a thing?
Is work-life balance a thing? I don't know.
Are you ever balanced?
No. I'm the closest to balance I've ever been since
today.
To this, the last since stepping out of my last business that I founded. But even this job I do now isn't. I was only consulting there for a while. I've never kept hours. I've never gotten a regular paycheck ever. I've
Mm,
never had health insurance. I mean, like I've paid for our health insurance. I've never had a structure like I do now. You know,
mm,
like I try to go to bed in this window. I wake up at this time. I eat usually 3 meals a day. You know, like when there's been a lot of the time where no, very, very little balance,
mm,
at all. I mean, like sun, daytime and nighttime, I don't know what's the
mhm.
same thing. Now, I take calls a lot. I'm on the phone when I am, and I work weekends, whatever it is, but my hours are sporadic and the stress is a roller coaster. But I would take this over anything I've ever done for this point in
Yeah,
my life. It does, if that's balance, it feels much more balanced than it ever has.
yeah.
So that was a long answer.
So what are the characteristics of what you would call this phase of your life where you are balanced? It's having a discipline for when to go to bed, when to wake up, how to eat, how often to exercise.
Hydrating,
Yeah.
not over exercising. Um,
How good are you at monitoring time spent with family, time spent as a professional are mutually opposed?
I
How
mean,
good are you at monitoring in real time? Like, okay, I've spent too much time here. I need to pull back.
it's usually on the spot if I can do it, you know, like I think I'm scared of a 9 to 5, but there's a comfort in the structure of a 9 to 5. Even if it's my 9 to 5, I make it 9 to 5, you know.
Hmm.
But I think that balance is important. But to answer your question about that, I think I realize now when I need to do it for the tank, you know, like for the fuel, where it's like I need to work a few more hours for the sake of productivity. I need to spend a little bit more time with the family. Usually, the family thing I don't think about, and it's a blessing or the grace of it happening. And I mean, my wife, we're having dinner together. We're doing this together. We're gonna take this trip together. You know, like she does a lot of that. You know, and I make it work financially or but I would like to be able to balance it. Um, and I think I'm closer to it than I ever have. But I mean, the performance thing throws me off, like you said,
Yeah.
or I have to make this amount of money so that then I can do this, or think this. As trite as that sounds, that's kind of where I'm at. Where it's like if I don't have to take every deal that I'm that's an option or that's being referred to me, and kind of make more choices. Um, but it usually has to get pretty clear. Like Sarah last night even was like, I was like, we got to go on a date. We got to have a date. And I realized like, oh man, I've been so in the trenches that I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's like that with the kids
It's
as
easier
well.
for the family man side of things to get neglected
Hmm.
because it's sort of the thing that you just kind of assume is going to always be there. Like,
Hmm.
oh, kids will be at home tomorrow too.
Yeah, but also if I put off work stuff and it's not being what's the word? I'm not procrastinating. But if I don't get everything done or I'm not getting what needs to be done and more, then I feel like I'm procrastinating.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect of it. But like you said, I think with the kids, I think I've realized more. Our daughter, 14-year-old middle daughter, moved to San Antonio uh, to go to a boarding school, and that was pretty heavy, pretty big realization, pretty quick that the time is less than when she's home. It's like, okay, I drop everything.
Yeah.
Or when I have an opportunity every other week to go take her to dinner, that's like, fuck everything else,
Yeah.
you know? And I'm glad I just thought of that because when you said that about that's always going to be there, I think that's really woken me up to like, you know what? It's not always going to be
It's
there.
not.
And I don't know how to just sit with somebody, or I don't know I'm learning. Samuel and I, it's okay to not have plans. and try to make something unrealistic or make something like Josephine and I'm going to take her to do this and we're going to play this. It's like, just go on a walk, man.
Yeah.
The memories that Ruth and I are making are having lunch unplanned somewhere for no reason, or like I was saying, walking the dogs the other day. Um, that's when like the conversations happen and things start. And if I try to plan stuff or idealize hangouts and stuff,
Yeah.
it doesn't work. But all that to say, I don't think I think I definitely have more of a balance than I ever have. Um, but a majority of what I do is still a roller coaster. I'm not proud of that, but even we're talking about diet, what food wise or exercise wise, but I think there is a balance that has never been there before, at least.
Yeah. I have not found a point where if I feel like I'm balanced,
Mm-hmm.
it's a recognition of it in the moment and it's fleeting.
Hmm.
There are these little glimpses that you get where you realize like I'm in the right place at the right time. I'm doing the thing I should be doing,
Yeah, should be.
and I'm doing both things well. It's
Yeah.
not I'm doing it this at the expense of this.
Mm-hmm.
Those moments happen in little glimpses, and it's usually just this little point in time, and then I go back to being out of balance.
Do you want it to be balanced?
I don't think balance is possible.
Okay, that's a good answer.
Yeah,
Because if it is,
no.
that's
In my experience, you have things that are mutually opposed to each other, like Tanner, the CEO, Tanner, the dad and husband. The
okay.
time I'm
That's
spending on this is
yeah,
time I'm not spending here, just by virtue of the way the operation works.
and vice
If I'm
versa.
spending time with family, I'm not spending time as CEO.
Yeah.
It'd be very easy for me to build a life system around one of those things. I'm the
Uh-huh.
breadwinner for the family. So, you know, Ashton stays at home with the boys. We homeschool. That's
Mhm.
her job. My job is to go make as much money as I can professionally. It'd be
Mhm.
very easy for me to set my schedule and my expectations around this thing and
Mhm.
totally neglect this thing because that's not my job. I could
Yeah.
very easily make a path there and it would
Mhm.
make all my decisions easier.
Wow.
But then you could also say, okay, I run an IT business and I'm not an IT guy, so I can't be super involved in the business.
Hmm.
And we have a really good leadership team. So let me just spend all of my time over here because I can. Meanwhile, you're neglecting this.
Sure.
It'd be easy to build a life system around one of those two things.
Yeah.
The only hard option is the right one, which is the one that's in the middle of the two,
Right.
where there's tension
Yeah.
and it requires constantly evaluating where have I been spending my time.
Yeah.
So this constant evaluation that never goes away.
Uh-huh.
And then a constant recognition of, oh, I fucked this up.
Yeah.
I've been spending too much time at home.
Yeah.
I got to get back to work.
Right.
Or I'm spending too much time on Live Oak stuff and I'm neglecting to go throw the baseball with my boys.
Yeah.
So it's this constant monitoring, constant evaluation, and then constantly recognizing where you failed and having to course correct.
Hmm.
That is just freaking hard, man.
Yeah, that is hard.
Living in the tension between two things that require you to be paying attention to both of them.
Yeah.
It's hard to live in that tension spot.
Yeah. Very.
Yeah.
It's
All right. So let's try to land our plane here.
So
The only question that I ask consistently, man, I've got like 8 things on here that we'll have to circle back to in a subsequent
All right.
conversation. But the only thing that I really ask consistently, and I'm always interested to hear, regardless of the side of the political aisle you find yourself on or whatever's going on in culture,
Mm-hmm.
you are constantly bombarded with things that would make you pessimistic about the future.
Yeah.
So, where do you find evidence for optimism or cause for optimism? What do you see in the world that makes you optimistic about the future?
Man, I've never thought of that because I kind of to a degree don't allow myself to think about it because I do get uh, burdened by like, oh man, these kids on their phones and everything all the time, and the news and the wars and everything. But not to sound cheesy, but like nature is an aspect of it. 'Cause I'm not like out camping and stuff. I've never really been that guy, but like being on the trails with those dudes or being around good people, I think is kind of I mean, not unlike yourself, but other people we know and we've talked about, and just people where not only do they have hope, but they're not fearful. Helps me realize I have hope and I'm not fearful.
Yeah.
Uh, but tangibly, I think it's real easy to be. The less time I'm on social media, the less time I'm watching the news, the less time uh, I'm in settings like that where I realize these settings make me think in a way that's negative or detrimental about the future. But I do, man, I have a fear when I think about what it's going to be like for our kids. I wish I didn't, and it might be totally fictitious, whatever, or it might be caused by, because I know if we were off the grid and in nature, no phones and no news and everything's fine, you know. And if it's not, and it's nuclear, it ends, so be it, you know. But I have always, even since I was little, believed that something like, I remember vividly seeing Terminator 2 and Skynet and the robots and everything. And I was like, holy shit, whoa, this could happen. And now things that are happening, I'm like, man, where's Connor? Connor.
Yeah.
I haven't had any straight answers for you today, but it is 50-50. But I think when I'm just away from the chaos that we wouldn't have if we weren't as interconnected due to, whether gratefully to technology or detrimentally to technology, I really think it's a choice of the day. You know, there's a lot of light and there's a lot of darkness, and was the question about fearing what?
Optimism. What makes you optimistic?
Yeah, good people. I know, as cheesy as that sounds, and nature.
Yeah.
I mean, even hearing good things that people create as I continue AI, it's like, man, this record from this band that's this new, this is great. This artist, and we bought this piece. It's beautiful. Those kind of things, that gives me optimism.
Yeah.
Museums, you know, we go anywhere we can to any museums, at least monthly. And that is always an infusion of optimism.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to think about it.
The nature angle to that's an answer I've not gotten yet.
Really?
Yeah. And I did not recognize until you said it that there is optimism to be found in nature, because at the very worst, like shit hits the fan moment,
Literally,
the sun will still come up tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's all you have to hold on to that gives you optimism, is that, well, we get another day.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Yeah. And again, I'm not a nature guy, but every morning I black cup of coffee, standing on the back porch, looking at the sky. And I'm not even like, oh, there's these stars and that. I just look, I stand there for a second. And part of it is that don't stand there too long, because you'll go where we're talking about. But just like, this is always here. The moon's always here. These trees, at least while they're here, are here. Good.
Yeah.
I have that every morning, and that's been part of that process of waking up at the same time every morning.
It's a gratitude practice. Gratitude and fear can't exist in the same brain, right?
You are correct.
Tony Robbins.
Oh, really?
I think so.
I know it experience. So, I mean, like, I get up every morning and write gratitudes to my hand, even if they're the same thing most mornings, or they're literal, simple, tangible things.
Yeah.
That's the only escape I've had for a long time.
Well, so, Joshua, I appreciate the new friendship, man.
Yeah, dude, me too. Cool. And thanks for having me. And I wish I was not a flat tire today. But
God, I'm so glad you're a flat tire today.
I'm glad you're flat, bro.
No, I like authenticity, like I told you before. So
glad I didn't throw the towel in. Glad I texted you and you were like, just come up here either way. Because even us hanging out for an hour prior to that put some air in my tire.
Yeah. Every once in a while, you just need a post to lean against.
True.
So happy to be a post for you when you need it.
Thank you for being my post.
Cool, man. Thanks for the time.
Of course. Thanks, Tanner.